Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is the Cats Roundtable with John Catsimatidis.
Everywhere around the world, they come to America. Every time that flag's unfurled, they come to America.
Good morning, America. This is the Cats Roundtable. John Catsimatidis here. We have KT McFarland. What's going on in Europe after Davos? John Prudhoe from The Economist in Great Britain. I want to know how the British feel about things. Mike Rogers running for the Senate in Michigan. Kelly Laufer, she's the head of the SBA. Lynn Shaw about helping our children. Madeline Pickens, the Stallions, the Mustangs, the Wild Wild West. What's happening to our horses? We have Steve Emerson for an alternative pulse of what's going on in the Iran area. And let's start off with Secretary Robert Kennedy. We talked to Secretary Kennedy on Wednesday when he was in Harrisburg. And did you get some time to relax a little, Mr. Secretary?
Well, I'm celebrating my birthday with Cheryl this weekend, so it's the most relaxing weekend that I've had for a long time.
Thank you for calling in. And tell us, I mean, you're doing a great job keeping the American people, giving them notice on what to eat and what not to eat, and to make sure that, one of my doctors that I'm on with him on every Sunday, Dr. Michalos, I said to him, he said to me, limit your alcohol and no sugar, no salt. I mean, that's a good start, right?
That is, and, unfortunately, the dietary guidelines that we've had for the last 50 years have been telling us to stuff ourselves with sugars and salts and refined carbohydrates and ultra-processed food, and it's been killing us. And today, as a result of that, we have the sickest population, the sickest children in the world. We have the highest chronic disease burden in the world, and most of those diseases are food-induced. And the good news is, by eating good food, you can lose your diagnosis for most diabetes, most type 2 diabetes, and for many other chronic diseases. So we are now issuing a food permit for the first time. It is science-based instead of based upon the mercantile interests of the ultra-processed food companies, which captured FDA. And it's telling you to eat protein, to eat meats, dairy, cheeses, chicken, and to eat plenty of vegetables and fruits and high fiber grains. So, and if people change this is going to drive the changes in our diet and our school lunch programs, our prisons and the military, and the subsidized programs like Head Start and WIC and the SNAP program, and we're going to try to change the dietary culture in our country so that Americans are once again the healthiest people in the world as they were when you and I was a kid. When my uncle was president, we spent zero on chronic disease in this country. That's how much we spent, zero. Today we spend $4.3 trillion. 40 cents out of every taxpayer dollar is going to food-induced chronic diseases, and we should not be doing that. We cannot solve our healthcare crisis in this country or our financial crisis by changing the ICD codes or the insurer who pays for what. We need to eliminate chronic disease, and that's what President Trump has ordered me to do.
It's the fact is that what I say, and I know I'm in the supermarket business, if a national manufacturer makes it, they're more they are more interested how good does it taste and how long is going to last on the shelf versus.
Well, you know what?
Yes.
John, I was peripherally involved in the tobacco cases back in the late 80s. And the tobacco companies saw the writing on the wall. They were the richest companies in the world at that time, cash rich. They had more cash on hand than any other companies. But they saw that there were regulatory headwinds and litigation heading their way, and their consumers were cutting down on smoking. So they decided to diversify. And how did they do that? They bought the food companies. So by 1995, the two biggest food companies in the world were Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds. And they moved all of these thousands of scientists who were busy for years making tobacco more addictive. And they moved them to figure out ways to make food addictive and to make it so that it doesn't fill you up. And they invented all of these, took these chemicals off the shelf, and they laced the food with sugars and salts, which are addictive. And they use chemicals and softeners to hijack our brains so that the food tastes good, it smells good, but it has no nutrition, so it doesn't fill you up, so you keep stuffing your pie hole all day. And that's what makes Americans obese. Our kids today now at a 20% obesity rate. Adults are 40%. And it's not because Americans suddenly got lazy or indolent or hungry. It's because they were poisoned. Their minds were deliberately addicted to eat poison all day long. And we are going to end that now with this administration.
Well, Mr. Secretary, I got to tell you a true story. You know, I'm a diabetic for 40 years. And I have it fully under control, where the fact that I use insulin and I keep my A1C down to below 5.5, which is non-diabetic, because I'm careful what I do. But one of those fast food places, and I won't mention brands, I ate. There was nothing else to eat, and I watched my sugar count and I watched my glucose count. And I eat a simple fish sandwich, and my insulin and my glucose count goes up tremendously. So I scratched my head. I said, what is in that fish sandwich that made my glucose go up? It's only fish, but it must be some other ingredients in there too.
Well, the bun is pretty much pure sugar, and there's sugar in everything. It's in the tartar sauce. It's in the cheese. It's in everything. So
it makes it taste better.
It makes it taste better. It's addictive. In prehistorical times, people would find sugar a couple of times a year when there was a fruit bloom, or they stumbled on a bee's nest, and they were able to get honey, and it was in small amounts. There were other nutrients in that fruit that were good for you, so you developed a hunger for them and an appetite for them, and people wanted it. Now there's sugar 365 days a year, and 24 hours a day. It's screaming at you from your refrigerator. And we have those same biological drives, but now the availability of it is making us all terribly, terribly sick. And, like I said, we have, when you and I were kids, the average pediatrician would see one case of diabetes over a 40, 50-year career. Today, 38% of American teens are diabetic. And we're spending $1 trillion a year just on that metabolic challenge. And it's because the sugar is been made available because the companies know it's addictive, so they load the food, and we've been subsidizing it with the federal SNAP program. About 10% of food stamps goes to buying sugar drink, which is the worst form of sugar. And then 78% of those kids end up on Medicaid, and we pay for their diabetes treatments. Oh, it's killing us economically. It's destroying our national security. 77% of American kids can't qualify for military service. This is a national crisis. It's existential for our country, and we got to end it.
Mr. Secretary, we're almost out of time, but I'll tell you what I tell my kids and what I tell other kids that are growing up. If our creator made it, eat it. If a national manufacturer made it, be careful and read the ingredients.
Yeah, another way of putting that is, if it comes in a package and it looks like it belongs in a package, don't open the package because it's poison in there. Don't eat it. Eat real food.
Mr. Secretary, thank you for what you're doing for our kids and grandkids. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Kelly Laufer. She's serving in the Trump administration under the Small Business Administration Administrator. It looks like 2026 is going to be a great year for the economy. It's just instead of chasing companies out, we're bringing them back. Now, how does that affect you? Run the Small Business Administration. How does that affect that? These big companies that are opening up, they need support groups.
Well, that's absolutely right, John. So as I travel the country on the Small Business Administration's Made in America manufacturing tour, I am walking factory floors in state after state, and they are so grateful to the Trump tax cuts and tariff plan because we have over 600,000 small and medium manufacturers that support the big guys. So you mentioned autos. People think of the big three. Guess what? There's 5,000 manufacturers in America that relate to the manufacturing of automobiles. Those are mainly small businesses. We're increasing our lending. We do about 1,000 loans a month to small manufacturers in this country. I was just with one who's going to double his workforce from 500 people to 1,000 people because of what the president's doing with tariffs and with tax cuts. So his agenda is reshoring and reindustrializing this great nation.
Is there any part of the country that's busier than other parts?
This is an important topic because the areas where the incentives invite manufacturing, you're seeing it in the Southeast. We're seeing it from North Carolina, Georgia, Texas, Florida. We're seeing tremendous growth there. We're seeing manufacturers fleeing California, Illinois, states where the governors don't like their industry. They don't like their workers. And so the incentives that President Trump, he runs this country in a way that makes people want to invest, take risk, grow, and hire. And those governors are causing people to flee those states. So this manufacturing boom is going to happen in regions that invite industry and workers.
Some love him, some hate him. But you want to know something? He's getting results for America, which is more important.
Absolutely. New York is the capital of capitalism. It's sad to see a socialist come in and take over the city, but I think New Yorkers have that fight in them to make sure that this city, this state works. And the president loves New York, but he's concerned. And I think the biggest thing that we can do at the Small Business Administration is make sure we're there for those job creators who want to invest in industry. We did that last year at record levels under President Trump. $45 billion in loans had never been seen before because people want to invest in the Trump economy and they want to grow along with this great economy that grew 4.2% in the third quarter and is probably going to grow above 5% in the fourth quarter, even though we had that government shutdown.
And I hear Georgia's leading the way. I heard the economy in Georgia, your hometown,
well, it's been named
really moving.
Yeah, it's been named many times the number one state in the country to do business. So, look, it's important to have a business-friendly state because it means it's worker-friendly.
President Trump has brought energy costs down tremendously, down to where they were when he was president back in 2021, 2020. And the other thing he wants to bring down is interest rates because small businesses can't afford very high interest rates. And they say he's going to announce somebody's going to be the next Fed chairman. But low interest rates are important to the American people.
That's right. The Fed's now cut 3 times, thankfully, but we have artificially high interest rates. Small business owners know it. Capital is the lifeblood of their business. This president knows that small business is big business and rates are way too high. He's taken action on that. And energy dominance, drill baby drill, has made a huge difference. Energy dominance in America means we have geopolitical safety and that we can set the table for the world because we're supplying the world's energy at a time of AI where that need for energy is only going to increase exponentially.
We got another minute left. Anything you want to tell the American people?
Well, look, I think it's important that they know that the Small Business Administration serves America's 36 million small businesses that make up 99% of all businesses in our country. I call them job creators because they also create 2 out of every 3 new jobs in America. Under President Trump, we saw nearly 700,000 private sector jobs created. We saw the government sector shrink, which was crowding out small business. We see interest rates coming down, which was crowding out investment, and regulations. 2026 is the year of building factories in America and cutting regulations and getting it done for the American people. That's President Trump's agenda, and he works harder than anyone I know to get it done.
Thank you so much for calling in on this Sunday morning, and God bless you and God bless America.
God bless you, John. Thank you.
You are listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back.
Busted.
The reviews are in.
Awesome.
You wanted more Joe Concha. And we heard you. More Joe. More show.
We're talking to you. Under promise and over deliver.
Joe Concha. Weeknights at 9. Plus Sunday mornings at 11 on 77 WABC.
Jimmy Kimmel no longer tries to be funny. Not that he ever really was.
Joe Concha. Weeknights at 9. Plus Sunday mornings at 11.
Democrats defending cocaine coming into the country.
Step into your future with an all-new series, Star Trek Starfleet Academy.
Being a cadet means being open to the people around you.
I've spent my whole life getting away from stuff, letting someone in. It's hard.
I want to be captain. I need to be captain.
Holly Hunter and Paul Giamatti star.
You'll encounter challenges your predecessors never had to imagine.
Starfleet Academy. New series now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. With us today is K.T. McFarland, and she is the former Deputy National Security Advisor under Michael Flynn. And KT, there's so many things happening with Davos this week and other foreign policy. Can you give us an update of what's going on?
This has been a huge week in President Trump's presidency. It's not just the Gaza peace plan that's now moving into stage 2, something that everyone thought would never happen, peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. It's not just the Board of Peace, which looks like it could be a problem-solving group going forward for a lot of issues in the future. It's not just the deal that he's getting with Greenland, but it's the potential for building a Golden Dome. So I worked for President Reagan, and in 1983 I wrote something called the Star Wars speech, which Reagan gave, and he put out the vision to could we develop a defense against nuclear weapons, a system that would shoot down out of the air intercontinental ballistic missiles carrying nuclear weapons to the United States. We have no defense against nuclear weapons then. We have no defense against nuclear weapons now. We didn't have the technology then, but we may potentially have that technology now. We know the Israelis have taken our technology and made the Iron Dome, which we see with great effect. It's been very successful in shooting down the proxy missiles from Hezbollah and Hamas. But could Donald Trump build a system that would shoot down enemy intercontinental ballistic missiles carrying nuclear weapons, hypersonic missiles, cruise missiles, all carrying nuclear weapons? He could do it. And the fact that he now has a deal with Greenland, that we could base such a system in Greenland, is going to change the world, because it would mean that the United States and Canada and Northern Europe would be free from the threat of nuclear attack. That's something earth-shattering.
And that's it builds like between Greenland, Canada, Alaska. It builds like a whole section of protecting Europe, or protecting the United States and Canada, protecting the part of the Pacific. And I mean, that's a home run deal.
And what it does is, the reason it's so complicated is it would be space-based. So there would be interceptors in space, missiles that would shoot down missiles from space. They would also be based in the land. We would have surveillance and intelligence, which would see where these missiles are going. So when a missile launches from, let's say, Russia, and we see it just as it's just leaving the Russian territory to go up into the atmosphere, we could see that. And it will go over the Arctic. It's the shortest route. It would go over the Arctic, and we could shoot that down before it became a problem, before it re-entered the atmosphere. And when you think of any kind of nuclear war that could happen, now we don't think about nuclear war anymore because it just seems like such a crazy concept. We haven't worried about it for decades. But it's still there. The threat is still there. And if we could take the land in Greenland and Canada and Alaska, and we could build this system that would defend us against nuclear attack over the Arctic, would be a complete game changer. It would effectively make nuclear weapons obsolete. Because if we could shoot them down, why build them in the first place?
Any updates on what's going on with Iran or Gaza?
You know, with Gaza, again, no one thought that there would be peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And President Trump has pulled it off. And he's done it with the Gaza peace plan, 20-point peace plan. Everybody in the world signed up. The reason that's significant is it separates the Palestinians from Hamas. And the Palestinians want to rebuild their country. Hamas wants to destroy their country and have perpetual war with Israel. Hamas has now been sidelined, and that's the Board of Peace that's doing that. The other thing that's important is that in Venezuela, so President Trump Maduro is gone. He's coming to the United States to face justice. He's killed Americans. But President Trump is now working with the next tier of leaders in Venezuela to effectively have a good relationship with us. We will develop their resources, particularly their oil resources. And as President Trump said this past week, he said, between the United States and Venezuela, we could control like 60% of the world's oil supply. And if you look at the future, what's the future going to be? It's all going to be about artificial intelligence and and we have to have a lot of energy to do that. Well, who has artificial intelligence? We do, the Chinese do. Who has energy? We do. And the Middle East does, and Venezuela does. Who has both artificial intelligence capabilities and energy? We do.
Iran. Are we slowly moving in additional ships close to Iran?
Yeah, we're doing that because we want options. President Trump has learned the lesson of failure of the Bush administration, where we toppled leaders. We had regime change. We disbanded their military. We disbanded their government. And then we became the occupying force and fought these forever wars in the Middle East that we couldn't win. So President Trump's not going to do that. But he's also learned from the failure of President Obama, who toppled the leaders during the Arab Spring, but then walked away and then assumed democracy would happen. Well, democracy didn't happen. What happened? Islamic extremism, ISIS, came out of the Arab Spring. So I think President Trump is looking at, okay, we could take military options. We could decapitate a leadership. But then what happens next? Who runs that country? We don't want to make sure that the lights are working and that the highways are working and the water filtration systems are turned on and collect the taxes. No, we want to make sure that there's somebody to work with in that country. And I think that's why we've got them. He wants to have the military option. He may not use it, but he wants to have it at his disposal. Yes. That's why he's moving
it scares the crap out of them besides. Ukraine and Russia, is there ever going to be a solution?
Well, it could go on for another year or so. It all depends on what happens in the next 3 days in Moscow, because Trump has sent a team now to Moscow. They're going to negotiate with Putin. As Trump said, there have been times when Ukraine wanted to settle and Russia didn't, and then times when Russia did and Ukraine didn't. So Ukraine is now on board. They want to settle. Will Vladimir Putin want to settle? Only time will tell.
Thank you so much for the update, KT McFarland, and hopefully the world's going to be a better place for our kids and grandkids to live in.
Couldn't agree more, and I think 2026 is shaping up to be the year that changes the world.
The Cats Roundtable.
John Prideaux, he's the U.S. editor of The Economist, based in London, and brought his two associates with them from London. They flew in, and they had a mission to find out, is the American dream still alive? John Prideaux, what do you think? Is the American dream still alive?
That's what I'm trying to find out, John. We're here celebrating America's 250th birthday. We're just at the beginning of a journey around the country. And we're trying to work out whether the American dream is still alive, whether it's still the kind of amazing story that you've had, whether that's still possible in America, and also whether America is still the same kind of country that it has been for most of my lifetime. I was born in about 1980, so grew up in the kind of Reagan-Thatcher era. Everybody in free societies around the world looked to America as an example of what a free country could be like, looked to America for inspiration. And people outside the US, including like close allies, people who love America, looking at the country now, thinking, hang on, is this still the same place that we thought it was? So I'm trying to answer that too.
Well, you were born in the UK?
Yes, sir. But
And so you know a lot about the UK. You lived in the United States, in the States for a long time too. It seems like the United States, capitalized-wise, moved a lot faster than the UK has moved in the last, since World War II. What went wrong in Europe where you didn't get the same results in innovation or invention?
I mean, I guess I'd put it the other way around and talk about what went right in the United States. You know, you have a continent-sized single market, 350 million people who can all create goods and services and sell them to each other. There's very little friction. You can create something in New York and, you know, sell it in California. Deep capital markets, not too much government intervention, and I think a certain kind of can-do spirit and a greater supply of people like yourself who have taken big risks in the pursuit of different kinds of goals. And I think that Europe and the UK, where I'm from, typically, if you take the average person, they are more risk averse. You don't have that kind of continent, you know, sized market that you guys have here. You don't have deep capital markets in the same way. And you have a lot of innovation, a lot of smart people, a lot of great universities. But I just think the whole culture is more, from a business point of view, is more risk averse.
I grew up where the sun never sets on the British Empire. How do you feel of what's happened in the last 50 years? And is the sun setting on the British Empire, or you don't feel as strong as before? Versus we've had a discussion where I felt that we're about to have the 250th year of the United States of America, and that if we didn't have the right president, that I didn't believe that we might not make the 300th year.
Yeah, I was really struck by that. And as somebody who really likes this country, and, you know, one of my sons is American, was born here, the idea that the country might not make it to its 300th birthday is alarming for me. What happened with the British Empire? Well, I think after the Second World War, after that conflict, the country was kind of on its knees, and also took the position that the parts that made up the British Empire should all have the opportunity to determine their own futures. They should all be able to decide for themselves if they wanted to be, you know, part of the British Empire, if they wanted to be independent. And they all chose, pretty much without exception, to be independent. And so Britain's unusual, I think, in having given up an empire relatively peacefully. And I think that was, you know, mainly a good thing. But one of the things that I think is so interesting now is it feels like that was the dominant way in which the world worked for, you know, 50, 60, 70 years. And now it feels like we might be back in an age that's a bit more like the 19th century, where countries are building empires. I mean, we talked about Greenland earlier today. President Trump would like to get his hands on Greenland. Were he to do so, that would expand America's territory, you know, a lot. He's thinking about competition with China, competition with Russia. And that feels a lot more like a return to a kind of imperial age that Britain thought it had left behind, but, you know, maybe we were naive.
You're here on a mission to find out more about the American dream. How many cities are you going to be hitting? How many people are you going to be hitting?
That's a good question. How many cities are we going to be in, guys? Like 5 or 6? I think in my time I've been United States editor of The Economist for 10 years. I think I've been to about 40 states. So I've spent a lot of time traveling in the country. I spend a lot of my life here. But on this trip, what is it, 5 or 6 cities? We're following the footsteps of a guy who traveled around America in the 1830s, Alexis de Tocqueville, and then he came home to France where he was, and he wrote a book called Democracy in America, explaining to people in Europe what was going on in America. And we're trying to follow his footsteps. And in the 1830s, America was a smaller country. You know, the frontier hadn't pushed west all the way to California. So we're going to be here in New York. He spent some time in New York. We're going upstate. I'm going to be in Sing Sing prison later in this week because he visited Sing Sing. We're going to be in Boston. We're going to be in Louisville, Kentucky, Florida. So a little bit all over the place. I'm looking forward to it.
John Prideaux, U.S. editor of The Economist, based in London. Thank you for being here. And I look forward to meeting you in the near future to give us your adventure for the rest of your trip.
I'll take you up on that offer. Thank you, John.
Thank you. You are listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. If you ever miss a segment or want to hear it again, go to WABCRadio.com, go to podcasts, go to minicast, and play back your favorite segment. With us today is Mike Rogers. He was a congressman in the state of Michigan from 2001 to 2015. Then he lost the Senate race by a close call, 17,000 votes. Mike Rogers, I'm not going to speculate because nobody wants to speculate a few years later. You were with the FBI for many years. You were a congressman for 14, 15 years. What the heck is going on in Michigan? Tell us.
Well, I, honestly, in the last year, some good things are happening. Reshoring is happening in Michigan. You know, we've lost under the Democrats. They've been in Lansing for the last 10 years, and they've held this Senate seat for 32 years. And good things are happening now because we're starting to get reshoring that's going to get more of those manufacturing jobs back. Huge. I can't tell you how important that is to our state. And actually having an advocate in Washington, D.C., you know, we used to have an air base in the UP of Michigan. That's gone. We used to have a submarine tracking station in Michigan. That's gone. We used to build submarine components on the west side of the state. Gone. Shipbuilding on the east side. Gone. Tank building. Gone. Here's the thing. All of that still happens. It just doesn't happen in Michigan. And I argue it's because we just haven't had people with leadership capabilities back in the United States Senate to help us make sure that we're in the game on defense industrial building. And so good things are happening mainly because of that reshoring. All of this tax relief that's coming come April is going to make a huge improvement in a lot of working families' lives. We have 3 million overtime working families. Think of the money that's going to get shoved right in their pocket when they need it most. Really, really important. And same with tip workers. Several 100,000 tip workers going to get good call when they file their taxes this year. So we're pretty fired up about where we're going. I am not negative on the economy there. I'm bullish on Michigan. We are going to get back in the business of defense industrial build. Oh, and by the way, we're going to build a lot of other good stuff too.
Is any of the car companies coming back since President Trump, through tariffs and through other means, is making it more desirable for them to come back and produce cars in maybe Detroit again?
General Motors announced $4 billion since those tariffs in the automobile business. $4 billion coming right to Michigan. Stellantis has announced reinvestment in the country. Ford is doing the same. You know, in little benefits that people around the country might not notice, but we sure do. You know, with all those EV regulations that happen, the CEO of Ford said, if you want to know why your cars are a lot more expensive than they should be, you thanks all of that Biden Democrat mandate on EVs. Well, we have a plant in Lansing, Michigan that was getting $400 million from the government to convert that thing to making electric Cadillacs. Not a big market for it, but they were going to have to do it anyway. Well, when Trump got in, that money went away. They just announced that they're going to build a gas version of the CTS-5 Cadillac in Lansing, Michigan. It's a gorgeous car, and that's exciting because people want to buy that car. That means we're going to keep production up. Those kinds of things are huge. So all the naysayers in Michigan and around the country aren't really seeing that. They're just missing the whole picture about what good things are happening in manufacturing in Michigan.
Ford and General Motors, which their headquarters was in Michigan forever. And I understand on electric vehicles, EVs, Ford took a $19.8 billion write-off. General Motors took $9 billion write-off because they're looking at pure electric vehicles doesn't work anymore. Gas vehicles work, and the combination of gas and
hybrids.
Hybrids.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of write-offs.
To you and I, who have been in business, we know what write-off means. To the average listener, that means they lost. They lost $9 billion. They lost that $16 billion.
$19.8 billion.
Yeah.
My God. I mean,
lost that money. Hard to make up $19 billion. And the mandates that they gave to the automobile dealers themselves, you told them that you had to buy these chargers, told them they had to take bays that they would normally do repairs and make money offline so that they'd have a storage place to work on electric batteries when something bad happened. I mean, all of those costs, they're going to have to eat all that money. I mean, the Democrats in this crazy policy damn near ruined two great American car companies. Toyota, interestingly enough, said, we're not in it. We don't want any money.
I remember that.
Yes, and guess what? Guess what? They're like the number one seller of hybrids in the country of the United States because they said, we think the market is going to hybrids. This is what happens when bureaucrats in Washington decide what kind of car you should drive. It has proven to be an outrageous fiasco for attracting and building on manufacturing. So it's going to take us a little while to get out of it, but man, we're doing it now.
But there's a lot of new jobs being created with President Trump bringing back jobs to Michigan and car jobs.
Completely, and you'll appreciate this as an entrepreneur. A guy was telling me the other day he bought a small tool and die shop in the city of Detroit. He said, I wasn't sure if I could save it, but I was going to try. And he said, right after that, Trump announced the tariffs. He said, my workload tripled because Japanese car companies were calling him saying, hey, we want to start building in the United States. Can you build these parts and this part and that part? I talked to a guy, first time in 25 years, adding a second shift in one of these small plants because of the number of orders that happen because it pays to actually build it in the United States. Small little guy in a little place called Portage, Michigan, adding 30 manufacturing jobs. And this is a small town. That's huge. Those are middle class.
So Michigan is making a big comeback.
I think so. And by the way, when all of these taxes hit, people start realizing what money is coming into their pocket in April. I think is going to be a very good year for the economy, not just in Michigan but around the country.
Mike Rogers, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll catch up again real soon.
I hope so.
The Cats Roundtable.
We have Steve Emerson. He's the founder of the Investigative Project out of Washington. Steve, after President Trump's visit to Davos, give us how everybody feels and what they feel like.
Well, John, in the past week, the new Syrian regime, which is dominated by ex-jihadists and current jihadists, have assaulted the entire Kurdish community in Syria, displaced the Syrian Democratic Forces, a group that has been our ally for more than a decade, in detaining 9,000 ISIS terrorists, booted them out, attacked the Kurdish communities, and now has basically abdicated its responsibility because the U.S. has now been forced to detain the 9,000 terrorists and ship them to Iraq. This is a catastrophe of the worst making because terrorists, hundreds of them, have escaped, ISIS terrorists. We know how bad damage they can do. By one, hundreds can do a lot of damage and kill Americans. This is just one part of the problem that we were developing in the Middle East, John. Turkey has played a pernicious role in so many areas that the American public is probably not aware of.
Turkey is a NATO country, but are they really a NATO country, or does the rest of NATO trust them?
Well, you raise a good question. The reason that they are, they basically play a hostage role over Europe because they're the ones that threaten to unleash hundreds of thousands of radical Islamists into Europe unless Europe pays them a hostage fee and basically kowtows to their policies. As far as Turkey being a U.S. ally, if they were a U.S. ally, they wouldn't be purchasing the advanced Russian S-400 missile systems, and they wouldn't be allowed to conduct military operations against U.S.-backed partners in Syria and elsewhere. NATO is weakened by the inclusion of Turkey, but they basically are holding the United States and the Europeans hostage, and it's a pretty despicable game. Look, Turkey hosts and literally trains Hamas terrorists. There are training camps in Turkey designed to send, and they have, suicide bombers into Israel. One suicide bomber detonated himself last year in the middle of Tel Aviv. Turkey has imprisoned U.S. pastors, including American pastor Andrew Brunson, for years now. He was released only due to pressure by the Trump administration. But they persecute Christians. You know, of course, they're involved also with Iran. They purchased a lot of oil illegally from Iran, and they've also supplied drones to Iran. So this is not an American ally at all.
Where does Iran stand? I mean, are the American forces still moving in to that area?
Yes, one carrier is already in place. Another carrier is on its way. So I think the United States is going to be in a good position in several days with these two carrier groups to basically carry out any type of mission the president orders if the suppression and persecution of the protesters continue. I must say we don't really know exactly what's happening in Iran because, as you know, the regime has cut off the Internet, and that means 98% of the people can't respond and video as they were doing recently. But the fact is we're still getting reports, at least not visually, but by oral reports by phone, about the protests continuing, and it appears that the government is now embarked on a campaign to execute some of those protesters, even though they claim that they were not going to do that. That's really the
So I guess President Trump is keeping his options open right now.
Absolutely. I mean, look, he stated very clearly yesterday in Davos that if they continue to do this or resume the executions, he's going to unleash the power of the U.S. military, and he's 100% right. And I think this is the first time, John, since 1979 that we see the regime almost being toppled. And other observers may say that's not possible, but I can tell you personally, this is something I haven't revealed before. I was involved several years ago in the defection of several IRGC commanders. I played that role because I was asked to by the CIA after they approached a confidential source of mine in London. And in the end, it turned out that it opened up a floodgate of defections of the IRGC, not just to the U.S., but to Europe. That shows that the IRGC is not as strong. It wasn't distributing the benefits. And I think we are very in a good position in knowing exactly what their capabilities are and what they aren't.
Anything else you want to tell the American people?
I just think that we're on the cusp of a major problem, a military problem in the Middle East because of the Syrian regime pretending to be moderate. And yes, they did fight against ISIS in the last month or so, but they are basically a jihadist regime that has embarked on massacres, major massacres, against the Kurdish community, against the Christian community, against the Druze community, against the Yazidis. This is not going away, and I think we are allowed Turkey to and basically empower this regime to the point where 19,000 civilians have been killed in the last year alone, and this is something the American public needs to know about.
Steve Emerson, the investigative group, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll catch up again real soon.
You got it. Thanks, John.
Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. And with us today is Madeline Pickens, who was married to T. Boone Pickens, the famous oil man. Well, you're a Wild West girl, and you are worried about the horses, the Mustangs, the stallions from the Wild Wild West. And Madeline Pickens, good to talk to you again. We haven't talked in a few years.
Well, my pleasure. And you are asking me to let the public know a little bit about the wild horses. And, of course, they are an American icon. And there were 2 million over 100 years ago, and now we're down to God knows what, 30,000, 40,000. We'll never get the right numbers from the government. But either way, I figured out what I need to do is create a sanctuary for them. I went out to Nevada because Nevada's a huge amount of public land, so they have the biggest ranches. And I purchased one for 630,000 acres so that we had all the water rights and we would be able to sustain the horses. Then I brought another one closer to the highway so that we would have the infrastructure. I have rescued 1,000 wild Mustangs. And the reason I'm doing this is because I got sickened when I found out about horse slaughter and what they were doing. The horse slaughter plants weren't even owned by Americans. They were owned by foreigners. Anyway, after a while, they did close the ones in the United States, but they moved them up to Canada and to Mexico. So, they were shipping our horses to Mexico to be slaughtered, to be eaten by Europeans and foreign countries, and sending them up to Canada to do the same thing so that they could make money and we would lose money. We would spend money gathering them as a gift for them to make money, and we didn't even charge them for it. I mean, it was ridiculous. But nevertheless, America loves the West. The whole world does right now. Everybody's into cowboys, Indians, wearing, country clothes and cowboy hats and dancing. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to create a national park.
And you say that at one time there was 3 million wild horses, stallions. What's a stallions and Mustangs? What's the difference between a Mustang and a stallion?
No, a stallion is a male horse.
Okay.
And a Mustang is the American Mustang that was abandoned years and years ago. In fact, if you go into history, you will see before the platelets moved, Americans had wild horses as well. So, it's nothing that's new to Americans. It connected the Missouri River to the Columbia River. It became, the waterways for people to go west. So they've been an amazing animal. They've worked for us, and they've done all the work to create a beautiful country out here in the West. And because of politics, rigged politics or corrupt politics, nobody can ever fix it. It's really, really a shame, because the funny thing is that every child in America loves horses. They love their dogs, their cats, and they truly love horses. Ask a young girl. She wants to ride a horse. She wants a pony. And here we have such opportunities. Instead of throwing them to waste and being corrupt, we don't put it to good use. And I feel now that, because you have the Internet and so many ways to search and do things, that it's an opportunity for people to say, hey, I want to be a part of this. Just to let you know why I have credibility, I did create Mustang Monument. We do take care of 1,000 horses. I actually grow hay for my horses, even though we put them out on, one group is on a 12,000 acre patch, another one on 4,000. So we take really, really good care of them. And so we're down to 30,000 horses, and are they still being slaughtered, Madeline? Yeah, of course. They have Roundup.
So, well, what should the president do, or what should be done by Congress?
That's a long story. The thing is that it's so political and so tough.
And this is part of the Department of Interior?
Yeah. And
well, the Department of Interior Secretary, maybe we should bring it up to him.
I think that's a great idea. I will go with you, and we will encourage everybody to write in.
Or maybe if you give us a report on it, I'll get it to him.
I can't thank you enough, John. I really appreciate it.
Well, let's stay in touch, Madeline, and let's have a crusade that we help the Mustangs, we help the stallions, we help the wild horses of America.
Oh, you're wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for calling in.
Thank you.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Lynn Shaw. She worries about our kids. And, well, Lynn Shaw, would you like to talk about her?
Thank you, John. We're hearing all these headlines about other countries, what's going on, wars, buying places. I don't know. You know what the war is? The real war is right here in America, the war on our children. We have big tech right now. I'm going to say, John, they're basically running Capitol Hill with their influence. January is traditionally, always is, Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And blue is the color of human trafficking. Blue signifies a blue heart, a sad heart, and, hope. We want hope as well, right? We always throw the hope into the sad hearts and things like that. So we've had a lot of hashtags this month, and we've had ribbons and solemn statements, and we've even had buildings around the country being lit up in blue. But I'll tell you, while the politicians are doing all of this, John, and lighting buildings, big tech has been lighting up Capitol Hill with something far more powerful than awareness. It's called money. Roughly right now, what we know about, I always say what we know about, because I always maintain, John, it's always more than that's put out there. So roughly right now we have $100 million plus from big tech in lobbying firepower aimed at one thing on Capitol Hill: slowing, shaping, and softening child safety laws. Right now we have 18 child safety pieces of legislation. Congress is lumping them all into one, which is something nobody's ever heard of. We don't even know. We have no transparency. What is happening? We have worked at the Warriors on the Kids Online Safety Act for 4.5 years. We can't even get an answer coming out of Washington. Are you marking it up? Is it going to go to a vote? Nothing, John. So does this sound fair to you that big tech is allowed to run around? People like Mark Zuckerberg, he has one lobbyist for every 6 members of Congress. And for everybody listening, Mark is, Meta, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. So we want everybody to understand and let this sink in. They are pouring bags, loads of cash into this lobbying. We who work on human trafficking, child safety, we don't have that kind of money to pour into anything, but what we have is truths and facts. So far, we're up to $100 million right now. 2026 just began. All of this accounting started in the first quarter of 2025. I can't imagine where we'll be by the end of this year, John. So here's what we have to do. All of this work, we always say, is bipartisan. It truly is. It truly is supposed to be so. We are Americans. We want the best for our kids, our grandkids. We don't want big tech, and we're fighting so hard. I don't know what we have to do. I'm standing in Times Square. I'm standing on Capitol Hill. I'm all over the country with other great people working on all of this, and big tech is getting away. It's like, money talks, crime walks. So what are we going to do about it? I'm going to go back to my list that I usually talk about, and that is everybody has to get involved. I truly mean this because community creates change is our Warriors hashtag. So you must be aware of what's going on. Contact House.gov, Senate.gov. Simply put, what are you doing? Find out who your legislative representative is. It's very you put in your zip code, and it tells you who represents you if you don't know. Write them an email. Everybody has an email now, and just say, what are you doing about child safety? When they get, it used to be 10 to 12, John, about his subject matter. Now it's 4 to 7 in an office they must address. So you need to use your voices, speak up, speak out, and say, what are you doing? Demand that they reject big tech running Capitol Hill and creating all of these loopholes so we, as parents, grandparents, Americans, don't have child safety. And then when you hear about something like Kids Online Safety Act at the Warriors, go to linswarriors.org. We have all the information there. Support it. Leverage the Internet for good. Put it on your platforms. Let people know about it. Organize in your schools, in your communities, just your parents and friends, other parents. Do you know this is going on? Let's come together as a group, even if it's 2, 3, 4 of us, let's go to who represents us and let's talk about it and push for media coverage and get them to open their ears and eyes, but that's a whole other program about the media and covering things like this. And you know what, everybody, very basic, vote with your attention and money. No and support platforms that refuse all of this anti-child safety. Who in their right mind? And you know what, demand that, we're going to educate each other. We're going to get together because the more the public knows, and it sounds very simple, but I talk to people every single day in America, and they don't seem to know this is going on. And there are a lot of tools and resources, again, listed out. Go to linswarriors.org. A lot of great people and a lot of ethical tech people working on these issues. And they are demanding as well on Capitol Hill that enough is enough. And you know what? That we band together, we come together, we speak up, we speak out, and know your rights, all in the name of safety for our children, our grandchildren, and all Americans. It's really a national security
and that's
threat,
the most important thing to a lot of us.
It's the only thing, John. I mean, really, our future, our children, our grandchildren, our future American, adults and leaders. And what is it going to be in 5 years? I come on the show every week, and every week the fight is harder with the AI, the artificial intelligence. We have a coalition in Washington. We're constantly working behind the scenes. Again, bipartisan. Nobody wants to listen about child safety. Why, John? Why?
I don't know. And I'll tell you, I spoke to Secretary Kennedy this week, and I thanked him for everything he's doing for our kids in making them eat better product.
That's a start. We need healthy kids, but you know what? As far as food, even, we need healthy minds, right? The Internet has polluted the minds of everybody, and especially children who have grown up 30 and under the Internet bubble. The minds have been polluted. So you know what? The hopeful message is we really do have now pushback where kids themselves, teenagers, kids in college, a little bit older, 25, putting down the phones, getting landlines, a whole group on Long Island, the parents all banded together. They bought their kids for Christmas landlines. So no teenagers, no cell phones. They're doing great. We have the bell-to-bell program across the United States in many different school districts, and that means no cell phones in the classrooms during the school day. Doing great. So there is a lot of hope, but we have to know about it, and then we have to act upon it. That's it. Community
Len
creates
Shaw,
change.
thank you so much for calling in today, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
Thanks, John. We'll talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. Every Sunday morning, we'll bring you the latest in what's happening in our community, our country, and the world. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a nice Sunday.
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and busts. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.